Hi guys, it's Ankita. Welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about part 6 of Crime and Punishment plus the epilogue because I have finished the book. So if you have not finished reading Crime and Punishment yet, you will find spoilers in this video. And if you don't want spoilers, you might want to consider exiting this video and maybe check out some of my other videos that don't have spoilers. Alright, without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, it has been 2 weeks since I finished this book, and I must say I was in contemplation mode, like just thinking and thinking for the last 2 weeks about the characters in this book, but also I was thinking this book made me realize that I don't know myself as well as I thought I did. It made me question so many things. It made me question what's really right and what's wrong. And I was also surprised by the ending of the book. It was absolutely not something that I was expecting. If you recall, when I started reading this book, I said that I was expecting it to be a book about a criminal and his journey, his personal journey, and him struggling with guilt. And I thought I knew how it would go. And it was going to be miserable. But I think the way Dostoevsky has told the story, it just kind of ignites so many, or like sparks so many thoughts and conversations. Even if you're not talking with anybody else about this book, you yourself can have a conversation in your head. And that's what I have been doing for the last 2 weeks, or rather from the very beginning when I started reading this book. There's something very tangible about the story of Raskolnikov, that when he was sick, when he was running a fever, I felt like I was going insane. And yeah, it's something very tangible that just reading this book was a highly emotional journey. It was like a roller coaster of emotions and thoughts popping up in my head that I never thought I would have. And anyway, let's talk about part 6, chapter 1. At the end of part 5, Raskolnikov finds out that Svidrigailov knows all of his secrets. He knows about the murder. He knows that Raskolnikov is the one who committed the murder. So yeah, that's where our part 5 ends. And in part 6, chapter 1, we see Raskolnikov's pretty nervous about it. He does not like this guy Svidrigailov. He is very much afraid of him, gives him a lot of anxiety. And then Razumikin visits Rodya, and bless Razumikin. Guy thinks that Rodya is caught up in some political conspiracy. He still cannot believe that Raskolnikov could have committed the murder. And through Razumikin, we also find out that Raskolnikov's sister has received a letter, so another mysterious element to the story. We don't know who has sent the letter, we don't know what's in the letter. We of course find out later on, but at this point we don't know. And then Porfiry shows up at Raskolnikov's apartment, and that's chapter 2. Okay, in chapter 2, Porfiry then visits Raskolnikov, and Porfiry apologizes to Raskolnikov for behaving in ungentlemanly manner, and he's talking about the entire scene that took place at the police station where Raskolnikov visited Porfiry, and Porfiry was pretty sure that Raskolnikov is a criminal, and he was almost about to arrest him, put him in the jail. But at that time, this decorator, what's his name? I don't recall his name, but the painter shows up and he confesses. So Raskolnikov's off the hook. Anyway, Porfiry apologizes to Raskolnikov for his behavior, and then how he kind of like lays off the profile. He has totally cracked the criminal psychology there, right? The person who committed the murder, and Raskolnikov fails, where he is now sure that Porfiry is 100% sure that the painter is not the murderer. In that case, Raskolnikov's like, then who is the murderer then? And Porfiry's like, why it's you, Rodya, it's you are the murderer. And that scene was the dialogue. It's on page 544. And I absolutely love the entire page, all of the dialogue. Basically, this meeting, the last meeting that we see between Porfiry and Raskolnikov, absolutely chilling and just excellently written. But yeah, after that, Porfiry asks Raskolnikov to make a confession so that there will be a little bit of leniency in his punishment. And I was kind of surprised by his advice to Raskolnikov while he's leaving. Oh yes, Raskolnikov, if you're considering suicide, make sure you leave a note. And that was really chilling. I thought he would say, don't even consider taking your own life or something like that. But he's like, no, if you do consider taking your life, then leave a note behind. And yeah, I was not expecting that. And at that point, I was thinking, oh, is this guy Raskolnikov really going to end his own life? Raskolnikov goes to visit Svidrigaïlov because Svidrigaïlov is giving him a lot of anxiety. He knows that Svidrigaïlov knows that Raskolnikov, he himself committed the murder. So yeah. So he goes to visit Svidrigaïlov. Oh my gosh, this guy Svidrigaïlov, shady as hell. There's so many similarities between Raskolnikov and Svidrigaïlov, but every time they have a conversation, Raskolnikov is very much appalled by Svidrigaïlov's crimes. And obviously they are appalling crimes, but so is the murder that Raskolnikov committed. But Raskolnikov, he considers himself to be, you know, in his own words, extraordinary. And therefore, he, even amongst criminals, Raskolnikov thinks he is special, as in he himself is special. Anyway, in the next chapter, chapter 4, Svidrigaïlov just, tells his backstory, tells him about his plans that he had with his sister, but now he reveals that he is engaged to a 16-year-old girl. Oh my goodness, the way he describes it is just yucky. It's just, yeah. Dude is a creep. Is a major creep. And Raskolnikov calls him out on that. Yeah, in this chapter all the time I was like, ew, Svidrigaïlov, you creep. That was just my reaction for the entire chapter. Anyway, it was funny how Svidrigaïlov in the next chapter, chapter 5, how Svidrigaïlov gets rid of Rodia. And then we learned that the letter that Raskolnikov's sister received was from Svidrigaïlov, and she goes to meet Svidrigaïlov. And the entire duration of the meeting, I was thinking, girl, what are you doing? Why are you there alone at his apartment? He is a creep. You shouldn't be there. And then what we fear happens, and there's this whole dramatic scene with the gun. I must say, I really like Raskolnikov's sister, but she was very foolish to go visit Svidrigaïlov there alone at his apartment. Towards the end of chapter 5, right, when Raskolnikov's sister leaves, she leaves the gun with Svidrigaïlov, and I was so afraid. Like, who is Svidrigaïlov going to kill now? And I was afraid that he was gonna kill Raskolnikov. And yeah, I was kind of shocked, like, why am I afraid if he's gonna kill Raskolnikov, a murderer? But I mean, come on. And then I thought he was gonna kill Sonia just out of spite, and thus punish Raskolnikov. Anyway, a criminal has a gun now, and the next chapter, he first goes to visit his fiance, whom he gives some money or presents, right? And then he visits Sonia and he gives her some money. But I was again very afraid that he's going there to visit Sonia. Maybe he's going to kill her, but he doesn't. He gives her money, and then he goes to a hotel, and he has nightmares, right? His nightmares were just as creepy as he is. That scene where he goes to the watchtower and he tells the guard to tell them that he went to America, but he doesn't really go to America. He shoots himself, and I felt so sad that this creepy guy just killed himself. I was shocked, I was sad, I was upset. A lot of questions, a lot of dialogue in my head about this whole thing as to why I felt sad he killed himself. He was a creep. And then we have chapter 7, where Raskolnikov first visits his mother. It's such a heartbreaking scene. Is it the first time we actually see Raskolnikov crying? I think so, right? He hasn't cried yet. He has been sick. He has been just a miserable person to be around. Right? No, but then they say goodbye to each other. And then his sister is waiting at his apartment for him, and she confronts him because now she knows that Raskolnikov is the one who killed the old lady. And it's also the time that we get to know, along with his sister, that we learn that Raskolnikov is not at all regretful of what he did. Instead, he is upset with himself that he couldn't do this. He couldn't kill someone and then rise out of it as a special person, right? He compares himself to Napoleon. He's like, all of these great people have murdered so many, and they have been the cause of so many people losing their lives, but they are up there and they are praised by everyone. But Raskolnikov chides himself for having failed to do this one thing that he thinks that all great people need to do, and that is to step across, that is to kill someone. And he is just disappointed in himself that he wasn't able to do that. So he chides himself for the weakness of not being able to come to terms with what he has done. He's obviously suffering. He has been sick. He has not been himself. He has isolated himself. He's depressed. Well, he was already depressed, but he's more depressed. He's just acting like a lunatic person, which he is. He is suffering, and he is not happy that he is suffering. He's like, why can't I be like the other people? And then another thing he talks about is that he lacked the aesthetic of the crime, that he didn't commit it with a lot of pomp and show, as maybe these other people that he idolizes have done in the past. Something to think about, right? All of these people like Napoleon and so many other people that we historical figures that we know of and that we praise. Not that I'm not a fan of Napoleon. Neither a lot of people, but they were back then. They were during their time. We know of their fall, but we also know of their rise, right? And these great historical, these historical figures have committed so many crimes, and still they were praised and applauded, and they rose for what they did, but not Raskolnikov, because he did not do it with a lot of aesthetic. He lacked the aesthetic to commit a crime. And we also learn in this chapter that he did contemplate of jumping into the Neva. He couldn't get through that. So Raskolnikov visits Sonia for the very last time, he thinks so. In chapter 8, he visits Sonia and he asks for the cross, right? And she follows him to the police bureau, where Raskolnikov learns about Svidrigailov, and he also learns that Zamyotov has been transferred. But what really jolts him is that Svidrigailov killed himself. And he, instead of making confession, he goes out of the police bureau. And I was like, oh shoot, this is the last chapter and he is not gonna make a confession. So is he gonna escape? Is he gonna run away? And then he walks out and he just looks at Sonia once, and he turns around, goes back into the police station and confesses his crime. And there ends our part 6. Then we have the epilogue. I was happy. I was also sad. We learned that he has been sent to Siberia, to a prison in Siberia, right? Raskolnikov has been sent to a prison in Siberia, and Sonia follows him there. And I loved Sonia's story, but before I talk about her, I was so happy that Raskolnikov's sister and Razumkin get married. I wasn't expecting that. I was hoping that they would end up together, but I wasn't expecting. I was thinking it's going to be another one of the tragic stories in the epilogue, but no. So I was pleasantly surprised, and yeah, chuffed about it. He's sentenced to 8 years in prison, which is very lenient compared to his crime where he murdered 2 women. And yeah, it seems like a lot of them had good things to say about Raskolnikov. Yeah, it was sad that his mother dies. She never really recovers from this shock. And then Sonia, yeah, let's talk about Sonia. Sonia follows him to Siberia. There she takes up small tailoring jobs, and then she establishes herself as a seamstress. Seems like she also writes letters to Raskolnikov's family, reporting about him. And then Raskolnikov falls sick, and I thought he was gonna die in the prison. And I would think that would be like kind of like moral justice, that maybe the author wants the criminal to have, right? That would be like moral justice. Yes, he murdered someone, and now he doesn't deserve a life outside of the prison after 8 years. That is not what happens. But the thing is, I was relieved that he didn't die. So what does that say about me? Let me know in the comments down below. How did you feel when Raskolnikov recovers from his illness in the prison? And then Sonia and their whole, I thought it was like a little romantic situation there where she visits him. She doesn't visit him for a few days because she herself is ill. And Raskolnikov is then so grateful. That moment they have where Raskolnikov's looking out of the window and there she is, Sonia's there. I thought that was very romantic, but then at the same time, it is kind of toxic love, isn't it? That Sonia's in love with this criminal. It is kind of toxic if you think about it, the way he treats her. But in the end, it's a story about forgiveness. It's a story of redemption. It's a story of this criminal suffering because of his crime. I was shocked towards the very end, even towards the very end, Raskolnikov did not believe, he did not have any regret whatsoever. Even in his time in Siberia, he is not really repenting at all. So that was kind of disappointing. So I wasn't expecting the redemption on the last page. I was not at all expecting that. But at the same time, would I have been happy if Raskolnikov would have been out of jail after 8 years, still having not repented and having nothing to look forward to, and then possibly would end up committing another crime because he still believes he is extraordinary, and then maybe next time he would commit a murder with more aesthetics. So I think it was a fitting end, redemption part, the part where he is looking forward to a life with Sonia outside the prison. Lots and lots of things to think about. My final thoughts are that this book turned out to be a total surprise. It was an emotional journey from the start to the finish. It made me ask a lot of questions. I was thinking about, not everything is black and white. Yes, we say it so many times, but there are so many questions right now popping up all over the world. What's right and what's wrong? Is there like a clear definition? Also, people don't usually like stories of redemption, do they? People want criminals to suffer. And I was expecting this book to be gloomy. Yes, it's about crime, it's about a criminal, but I didn't expect to be so surprised by it. I didn't expect it to be an emotional journey. Like I said, there was something very tangible about all of the emotions that Raskolnikov is going through. The way the story is told, it seems chaotic at first, but it really works. And I googled about Dostoevsky, and it turns out it's his style. It is a term for it, but it's his style to tell stories. Nothing is straightforward told to us by the narrator, right? The narrator doesn't tell us much. Everything comes out through dialogue from like one character telling another character, and that's how you kind of find out, and that's a term for that. And I've never come across such narration, such storytelling. So did I like it? It was a little bit chaotic for the people following Raskolnikov, and oh my goodness, when he had a fever, I thought I was gonna be sick. Like, absolutely brilliant exploration of the criminal psychology, the criminal psyche. Another thing that stood out to me was the depiction of poverty and how Raskolnikov and so many other characters are in the same poor, shall we say, they're all destitute, and still Raskolnikov is the only one who thinks himself, thinks that he is extraordinary, right? This ideology, this philosophy that he's extraordinary and he's above everyone, even though everyone's destitute, everyone's trying to make something out of their situation, right? They're trying to find a job. Avdotia, she thought that she would marry this guy Lazim, right? So everyone's trying to get out of their situations through straight means, but not Raskolnikov. So there's this kind of like comparison that you constantly make. I was constantly comparing Razumikhin to Raskolnikov, absolutely on the like opposite to each other, but in kind of same circumstances. But then Raskolnikov goes and commits this murder, 2 murders. So yeah, a lot to think about that. Then the symbolism, nightmares. Oh my goodness, these characters are plagued with nightmares, and the significance of them in the story was just absolutely immense. I think this is a story that I will actually think about for a very, very long time. I was constantly thinking about the guy who murdered the CEO of United Healthcare. What was he thinking? Did he think he was someone special? Is he our modern day Raskolnikov? There were a lot of things that I was thinking about, and then I started listening to this audiobook. One of my coworkers recommended me, and that was what is it, about the Stanford experiment. And in that that there's like a dialogue that we fear evil, but we are also fascinated by it. So yes, we fear Raskolnikov, but we are also fascinated by what he does and why he does. Like, we want to know more about him. That's all I have to say about this book right now, and I'm sure after I finish recording this video, I will then think about other things that I should have said in the video. But do let me know in the comments down below, what did you think about this book? If you read this book a long time ago, do you still think about this book? How did this book make you feel? It made me feel like I don't know myself as well as I thought I did. If you made it so far in this video, thank you so much for watching this video. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.